Now, when learning to handstand or improving the handstand you already have, you need to understand a few things about you to make the journey much easier. So you are either more strong, more flexible, or completely new to this style of training. Now, there's no 100% rule. You might fit somewhere in the middle, but understanding which type of balance is going to work better for you is going to make your handstand journey much more enjoyable and also much quicker. Now, anyone teaching adults to handstand are really going to use 3 blocks. We all use these same 3 blocks because they work. It's actually very, very simple. So we have overbalance, we have underbalance, and we have a certain amount of conditioning or strength. So just being able to hold your body upside down on your hands for a certain amount of time. So conditioning plus overbalance plus underbalance equals handstand. So if we have 0 conditioning, we literally can't hold our body on our hands for any amount of time, whether that's up against the wall or whether that's freestanding. I literally have 0 capacity or strength conditioning to hold there. So I need to build that. Now, no one's starting with absolutely 0. We can all put our hands down on the floor. We can have a certain amount of weight here. Over time, we can increase that weight to the point where our feet can float up in the air. And the best way to train that is just to build strength conditioning in this position, being upside down, slowly increasing the time, slowly increasing the position, so you're more and more stacked. You could start with your feet up on the sofa for 10 seconds and then just improve that over time until you can comfortably hold that for 30, 60, 90 seconds. Then we need to start to learn how to control the overbalance and how to control the underbalance. Now, our overbalance is the same as being on our feet. I can fall this way, which is our overbalance. I'm going to fall forwards. And then I have the underbalance where I can fall backwards in this opposite direction. I need to be able to control this. If I go too far, I'm going to fall on top of Rosie. Exactly the same in the handstand. I can go towards my fingers, which is my overbalance. I have a certain window there. If I go too far, I'm going to fall. I'm on the edge of that now. And then I have my underbalance, which is this direction. How far can I take the feet this way before, again, I fall back down? So underbalance, overbalance. Now we train that overbalance by using the back to wall heel pull drill. So being in this position, make the body one segment. We don't want to be collapsing and moving around. We want to squeeze everything together enough so you can still hold a conversation, but we need to have a connection from the fingers all the way through to the heels. So when I push through my fingers, my heels come off the wall. So that's learning the strength of overbalance. It's the same, having my head against the wall, making sure my glutes and my abs are on. I highly recommend you do this if you haven't done it. Push through your toes, feel how you're controlling this movement. You're controlling the overbalance. Exactly the same on our fingers in that back to wall position. Push through the fingers just enough to come off the wall, relax the fingers, go back. Get very, very good at that, and you're gonna learn how to control your overbalance. We have the underbalance drill. This is going to really take your handstand to a new level. You're going to start to catch consistently and have a bigger window of balance, which is also going to increase your hold times. However, it's a little bit scary and takes a lot of repetition and practice to go from this chest to wall position. So now we're training the underbalance by taking the shoulders forwards, toes come down, push up to handstand, back again. You might need a spotter for this. This is going to take a little bit of time. Now, I have lots of videos explaining the underbalance, the overbalance, and increasing that balance window. That's your quickest way to learn the handstand. But what I want to cover today is how the different body types will need different focuses on these to make sure you achieve this as quick as possible. So the person who's very, very new to handstand or this style of training is probably going to be lacking mobility, lacking strength, lacking conditioning. So they're going to be spending a lot of time here, working through that general mobility, making sure that they can touch their toes, making sure that they can put their hands above their head, starting to load the body in those positions I was showing earlier with the feet up on the wall, but also things like crow, frog balances, this type of thing, to build some understanding of overbalance, underbalance, and just start to really condition the hands, the arms, the shoulders, and the body in general to be able to put lots of weight and time in the handstand position. So that beginner is probably going to be here for quite a bit of time and not quite working under balance and things like that yet. Then we have the very common flexible people and the very common strong people. The main two types that get into this style of training and really need a different mindset when it comes to learning how to control the body on our hands. So the strong person is probably going to be lacking a little bit of mobility. So when they put their hands above their head, they're going to look a bit more like this. So their arms might bend, they might even arch the body a little bit to try and get into the position, but they're very comfortable to hold in the inverted position with their arms slightly bent. So they're actually happy here and they feel like they've got lots of control. But if that strong person tries to go into this position, they're going to find their control and their hold times decrease dramatically. And the intensity will be really built up on lack of mobility, which is going to make their body pop out sideways from the balance, meaning that they just literally can't hold in the position for any amount of time. So this person needs to take their hands a little bit wider and turn them out slightly. This is just going to create more space in the shoulders and the upper back and the lats, but it will also allow them to combine that with the strength that they have to create a more of an up and down type movement to create the balance. So if I kick into handstand here, notice my arms are slightly bent, I can now control my balance like this. See, I'm moving the arms up and down slightly, hips and legs are moving around, I'm all connected, but I have more this open position. And that can work in our back to wall heel pull drills. So I'm bending my arms slightly, pulling myself around. It's very minimal. I'm still trying to go through the technique of the heel pull where I pull the heels off. I'm not kicking off the wall. I'm returning back to my start position each repetition. But the technique and the movement is going to look very different than if the flexible person does the same drill. Exactly the same as if I do the toe pull drill. I might pull down, shoulders, and now look at the arms. See, the arms are bending a little bit. So I'm pulling down and pushing up. So it's a little bit like we use our knees going up and down. It's a bit like suspension. Now, if the flexible person try to use this same technique, and if they have very little conditioning and strength, if they tried to bend their arms and had a wider hand position, their body's more going to collapse and feel like it has nothing. So we actually need to create a little bit more tension with the flexible person. We need to stack them more by having the hands a little bit closer together, making sure we're pushing up and away all the time and lengthening. And then the biggie is making sure that we have strict base balance. So when we're on our hands, we need to make sure that our shoulders and our arms and our focal point is doing all the balance work. So this is balancing us, not our hips and our legs. The flexible person is going to tend to have a hip that wants to go over and above their shoulders or even in front of their shoulders. So their position might look more like this. So the hip is over and their shoulder is really open. So they're going to be pushing their shoulder through in this direction and their hip in this direction. And what that does is it makes us very, very top heavy and makes the body want to pike. So you often see people that are very flexible will have piked hips and a butt that sticks out in that direction when they handstand. So they're going to look a little bit like this. It's actually hard for me to show it. I'm more of the strength background, lacking flexibility person, more like this. So this person is going to work really well if they keep their legs and their arms much closer together, more stacked, squeeze much more, and definitely squeeze much more in the glutes and the abs so they don't get this disconnect in the hip. So squeeze there. Now I push through the fingers so the heels just float off. They also might benefit from crossing their legs to try and feel that connection, or put something between their legs like so they can feel what it's like to keep everything locked in and have a really good connection from the toes to the heels. When we're doing the chest to wall toe pull movement, we need to make sure that that flexible person is not doing this and taking the hips over and keeping the shoulders there, because that will create a whip that's going to throw you off. We need to make sure before they go through the movement that they actually do this, turn the glutes on so they open the hip towards the wall, and then lead with the shoulder when they do this type of movement, because that hip is just going to get more and more involved and try and take over, and the shoulders are going to try and get closer to the wall, making the position very top heavy. So yes, handstanding is very simple. We need some conditioning, we need some overbalance, we need some underbalance. You get good at those three things and you will get a freestanding handstand. But you definitely need to take into consideration which one of these do you fit into. Now this is a super interesting topic. Let me know your experience, what type of body type you have. and how that affects your training down in the comments. A big thumbs up and subscribe will really help the channel out. And if you're after more help with your training, check out my website, www.paultwyman.com.au. And I offer online coaching and have my app.